Hello everyone, welcome to yet another sessions by SRIRAM'S IAS for the daily news analysis for the Hindu newspaper, where we take important articles appearing in the newspaper and break them down to simplify for us from the perspective of the UPSC examination and extract vital information from them which is useful for us for preparing of the examination. With this, let's dive into the articles for today. The articles which we have today are in the Delhi edition of the Hindu newspaper dated 7th June. Let's take up the first article. The first article which appears in the newspaper reads, "A silver moment to propel a Bay of Bengal dream." Now this article appears in the newspaper because on June 6, the BIMSTEC organization. Has everyone heard of this organization? We'll be discussing about this organization. So the BIMSTEC organization completed yesterday on June 6, 25 years. On this context, the author tries to delve into the role of BIMSTEC in today's world. When it was formed 25 years ago, how was the situation then? After completing 25 years, what kind of successes has it encountered? What challenges is posed in front of them after completing 25 years? What are the areas that it has worked upon well, and what are the areas it still needs to improve upon? The author tries to assess the role of BIMSTEC, and we'll follow the same because BIMSTEC, being an organization wherein India is involved, becomes important for us to study from the GS2 point of view, where India and its neighborhood relations become important for us. So with this, let's talk about BIMSTEC in today's discussion. 25 years completed. Now when we say BIMSTEC, first 4 countries came together to form an organization which was called as BISTEC, or an organization made up of Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka and Thailand. And then later 3 other countries such as Nepal, Bhutan and Myanmar joined to form the larger organization which was then called as the Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation, or what we now shortly call as BIMSTEC. So this became a very crucial organization between the South Asian nations and the Southeast Asian nations to come together and collaborate on technical and economic cooperation issues, and thus began the journey of the BIMSTEC organization 25 years ago. Now, after 25 years, a lot has changed in the world. When BIMSTEC was formed 25 years ago, the world was much different in terms of the scenario of world order, where most of the world politics was dominated by the Western ideals and Western prerogatives. But today we know that China is increasingly stamping its hegemony, especially in the Indian Ocean and Indo-Pacific region and other regions around the world as well. But today the scenario has changed, where there's an increasing conflict between the West and China and with other nations as well. So in this scenario, the BIMSTEC can be touted to play a renewed role in this scenario, and with this renewed aspect, the author tries to look at BIMSTEC as to what role can it freshly play. So what is the importance of BIMSTEC? When we talk about the new shaping world order, we know that the region of Indo-Pacific is at the center of it now, because this is an important trade route linking the West with the other areas, West and Europe with the other areas, and also China wants to establish its hegemony in this region. We have seen multiple instances of it in our previous sessions as well. So when there is an initiative or organization comprising of the Bay of Bengal countries, it becomes very necessary that in this Indo-Pacific century, BIMSTEC has a big role to play in deepening linkages between South Asia, which has India and other countries, and the Southeast Asia, which has countries such as Myanmar, Thailand and other countries, right? So in this backdrop, BIMSTEC holds a very central position to play. And it can also collaborate with the newly formed Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, right? We've been hearing the formation about this organization in the news, wherein a new economic partnership is being formed known as the IPEF, or Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, and it can also collaborate with it. This becomes the significant points for BIMSTEC. But when we now assess BIMSTEC, has there been any successful points for BIMSTEC? BIMSTEC in fact has been a successful organization for the past 25 years where it has done quite a few good things and it is moving in a good direction. What have been some of its successful points that it has achieved? Let's try to take a look at it. The successful points of BIMSTEC has been that it has rightly prioritized 7 sectors of development with each state in charge of one sector. So as we saw that this organization is primarily formed for the technical, multi-sectoral technical and economic cooperation. So all the areas with respect to development are the heart of working of this organization. So the correct step that it did was it took 7 sectors and all the 7 countries of BIMSTEC took charge of this one sector and they're working towards it. So this prioritization is touted as a success point for BIMSTEC. And other point is that, which is very crucial for any intergovernmental body, is that there has been regularity of summits for them. They have been meeting regularly to discuss the issues and to take the plans forward, which has been not the case in the SARC. Can anyone tell me in the comment section which are the countries which are there in the SARC or the South Asian Association of Regional Countries, and which countries are common in both organizations and which countries are not there in the SARC but there in the BIMSTEC? You can comment in the comment box below. This is also an organization for the South Asian region, but there are certain countries which are not there in the BIMSTEC group, right? So then and this organization faces the backlash of not meeting regularly. Then other successful point is that it has shown significant progress in combating terrorism and forging security cooperation amongst the constituent countries. It has done well on the security cooperation front. And various MOUs, what do we mean by MOUs? These are Memorandum of Understandings, or in short agreements, have been signed in the areas of agriculture, trade and sustainable development. So in these areas, a good number of agreements have been signed between the countries to facilitate agriculture, trade and sustainable development amongst them. And also establishment of institutions such as the Energy Center and Center on Weather and Climate have also been standing as a successful point in the partnership of this organization, because as we know, the region of Bay of Bengal is all of these countries which are situated are subjected to similar weather, and the region of Bay of Bengal, we all know, is a place for rising amount of cyclones. So instituting such mechanisms to monitor the weather also becomes important. And we also know that the Bay of Bengal region has the largest delta and the mangrove forests in the world, known as the Sundarbans forest, and there is a dire need to protect that. So that is why this organization also holds the key to protect those mangrove forests together, right? Then these are some of the successful points. Now what are some of the challenges in front of the BIMSTEC, where some of the points on which front they have not able to do very well and they still need to pull their socks up? So what are those issues? First, a very important point of failure is that it has failed to sign a free trade agreement between all its constituent nations even after 18 years of discussion. So we know that the free trade agreement, once signed, provides an impetus to trade between these countries, and certain restrictions are lifted, and that is how trade becomes easy to take place between these countries. And such kind of a free trade agreement has not been signed among these countries, which is a big blot on the performance of BIMSTEC yet. And it has also shown very poor pace of work on the front of connectivity between various countries, such as the South Asian and Southeast Asian countries. So this point is of much importance because we know that in the Southeast Asian countries there is a constant tussle going on between India and China to appropriate the support of each of these countries. That is why having connectivity with these countries is very important, and on this front not much of the work has been done by BIMSTEC, or whatever kind of work has been done through bilateral negotiations with India and other countries. So bilateral front, on the bilateral front work has been done, but on the front of BIMSTEC not many significant agreements with respect to connectivity has taken place, and this is a challenge ahead of BIMSTEC. And there have been talks on blue economy, but not much has been done. Right? So the ocean or the water bodies which exist between them, there are also talks about getting the best or extracting the best resources out of these water bodies, but not much significant step has been taken forward on this front. Right? So this becomes another point of challenge in front of BIMSTEC. And then other is the Rohingya issue. The Rohingya issue, as we know, is the crisis of Rohingya refugees which have been traveling from the Myanmar country to Bangladesh, and both these countries are party to BIMSTEC, and therefore coming together of them and resolving this issue becomes a very pivotal thing to take care of for the fruitful and successful going forward of this organization. So this was a holistic background of BIMSTEC that we did, where we tried to look at the organization and what is its role in today's world order, what has been its successful ventures up until now, and what challenges are posed in front of it which it needs to take care of in order to successfully transform the South Asian and Southeast region and play a dominant role in the Indo-Pacific region in the years to come. So with this article, let's move on to the next article for the day. The next article, which appears in the newspaper, reads, PM urges bank chiefs to make loan process easier. This year's prelim has shown us that whatever significant words are uttered from the Honorable PM's mouth, which are pertaining to the subject of UPSC, it becomes an important part for us to study, right? So that is how this article mentions about the Jan Samarth portal. Now, what is this portal which the PM has recently inaugurated? That becomes the point of study for us, and it becomes important from the part of GS2, where we study the welfare schemes for vulnerable section of the population by the center and states and the performance of these schemes. So whatever schemes come out in the newspaper or in the day-to-day happenings, they become important for us from the point of view of GS2. And this is a scheme which actually takes or carries with it 13 credit link schemes for various beneficiaries, and therefore it is promoting inclusive growth, and therefore it also forms a part of GS3, where we study inclusive growth and issues arising from it. With this, let's try to take a look at what is this Jan Samarth portal. And we have seen up until now, whenever we study a scheme, the important points that we need to look at for it is that under which ministry does it come, what is the mandate or objective of the scheme, and how does it intend to achieve that mandate. So keeping in mind these parameters, let's try to look at what the Jan Samarth portal scheme is. Now, what is the Jan Samarth portal? As we saw that it was launched during the iconic week celebration of Ministry of Finance and Corporate Affairs at the Vigyan Bhavan in New Delhi yesterday by the PM. So we can now see that the Jan Samarth portal falls within the purview of Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Corporate Affairs. What is this portal? This portal is a one-stop digital portal, which means that it's a one-stop digital website that links the government credit schemes. What are credit schemes? Those schemes which grant credit to someone. The government grants loan through credit to its beneficiaries. Those are known as government credit schemes. And it is first of its kind platform connecting beneficiaries directly to the lenders. This portal has been launched in a bid to encourage inclusive growth and development of several sectors by guiding and providing them the right government benefits by means of simple and easy digital processes. It ensures end-to-end coverage of all the linked schemes. Now, what is this portal trying to achieve? A lot of times what happens that there are a lot of schemes in the market flowing, but the beneficiaries themselves are not aware that this is a scheme for them which they can benefit from. So that is one issue they face. The second issue they face, that there is a lot of paperwork or hassle involved when one from the time when one gets to know about the scheme till the time arrives when he or she finally gets the benefit of that scheme. So to remove all of this paperwork or logistical work which gets involved, which makes the process very lengthy, and also to make the benefit reach the beneficiary faster, this portal works as a one-stop platform where all the credit schemes come together on this platform with easy procedures to follow. And once you follow this procedure one time, it will be saved in the portal, and you need not have to fill your information again and again for the access of various other schemes. Now, how many schemes will be linked to the single platform? So, Jan Samarth portal is a unique digital portal that will link 13 credit linked government schemes on a single platform. So, all the credit schemes for various beneficiaries such as the likes of students, businessmen, farmers, MSME sector, entrepreneurs, the credit schemes which are involved to help all of these stakeholders would be directly present in this one-stop portal, and therefore it will definitely benefit all of these beneficiaries and help in realizing their dreams. So this becomes an important welfare scheme to remove the hassles which are involved in the welfare governance measures, and also, as we saw, a big step in achieving inclusive growth, because you then take a lot of beneficiaries in the fold of welfare mechanism instituted by the government, right? So with this, let's move on to our next article for the day. The next article which appears in the newspaper reads 76,390 crore defense projects get nod. Now we know that with respect to defense sector in India, a lot of development is happening when two countries where we are facing border clashes with China as well as Pakistan from time to time. We know that our defense expenditure has significantly gone up in the past few years, and according to the SIPRI or the Stockholm International Report, which assesses the world spending on defense expenditure, India ranks as the third most spender of defense in the world on defense equipment. And we also know that we import a lot of defense equipment such as the likes of Rafale jets which we imported, or we know during the Russia-Ukraine crisis where Russia forms a big import partner for us in terms of where we are dependent on Russia on the arms and ammunitions on the country. So that is why this is a initiative by the government of India where it wants to indigenously produce defense equipments and wants to privatize the defense manufacturing sector, where the companies from India itself manufacture defense equipment, and we move towards another step of achieving the Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative. So in this backdrop, the defense sector has taken up much importance. That is where we keep seeing all the news about extreme amount of expenditure done in acquiring indigenous defense equipments. So here also the article mentions as this huge sum of money being invested to acquire or give boost to manufacture of such defense equipment. But what becomes important for us in this article is not what is being manufactured, but the body which is taking these decisions, and that body is the Defense Acquisition Council, which is the apex council which takes all the decisions pertaining to the acquisition and handling of the defense equipment, and that becomes important for us from the point of view of GS2, where we study the structure, organization and functioning of the executive and the judiciary, and also the ministries and departments of the government. So since it's an important part of the functioning of the defense ministry, it becomes with the backdrop of the increasing importance of defense expenditure and indigenization of defense, the body becomes very important for us to have a look at and know what are the important points for the Defense Acquisition Council. So with this, let's take a look at some of the important points of the Defense Acquisition Council. What is this council? What does it do? It is the highest decision making body in the defense ministry for deciding on new policies and capital acquisitions for 3 services, that is Army, Navy and Air Force and the Indian Coast Guard. What does this mean? That this is the body which sits at the top to make the decision as to what is the defense policy going to be and what all acquisitions or expenditure on acquiring defense equipment and other things is going to be done in what manner for all the services and Indian Coast Guard. So we can see the importance of this council. So naturally, who can be the chairman of this council? The Minister of Defense is the chairman of the council. When was this council formed? It was formed after the group of ministers' recommendations on reforming the national security system in 2001 post the Kargil war. So it was formed after 2001 and it has been active since then to take the important decisions with respect to the defense sector in the country, right? So this is the important information that we extracted from the article, where we went deep into the body which is taking these decisions based on the importance of the backdrop of that sector, right? With this, let's take the other article for the day. The next article which appears in the newspaper reads, Strategic Missile Agni-4 successfully test fired. Now, we know the importance of indigenous technologies or defense technologies, as we were just talking about, and UPSC prelims examination is also no stranger to it, and it keeps asking about these indigenous technologies which are being tested and successfully used in the Indian Armed Forces and other forces. So in this backdrop, the news talks about the new Agni-4 missile being successfully tested. So via this article, we'll understand what is the Agni-4 missile, what are the different types of missiles that exist in the Indian Armory, and we'll try to understand few important points about these missiles, right? So this article becomes important from the perspective of GS3 and the science and technology part of prelims, where we have to study the achievements of Indians in science and technology and indigenization of technology and developing new technology. So Agni-4 is being developed wholly by the Indian companies. That is why it becomes important for us from the GS3 perspective. Now, what is before that, Agni-4 has been already asked in the prelims examination. This was a question which appears in the 2014 prelims examination. When we take a look at this question, we understand the importance of all the defense equipment that is being inducted newly in the Indian Armory, and also the type of questions that can be formed on this topic. Let's try to understand few things about Agni-4 missile, and then let's see whether we can solve this question or not. So when we talk about the missiles in India, there are two kinds of missiles. One is the ballistic missiles and other is the cruise missiles. So the missiles in Indian Armory are classified into two parts, whereas one is known as ballistic missiles and one is cruise missiles. So Agni-4 is a type of ballistic missiles. So our center point for discussion over here today would be the ballistic missiles and how they are different from the cruise missiles. So let's first try to understand what are ballistic missiles. Ballistic missiles follows a ballistic trajectory to deliver one or more warheads on a predetermined target. Let's understand this through a figure. When we launch a missile, it does not follow a straight path, rather it follows a trajectory path, a parabolic path where it first goes out of the atmosphere and then lands on to the target. This is the course or the central point for ballistic missile. The direction of its travel determines which kind of missile it is. And whereas how different is the cruise missile? Cruise missile will travel in a straight line from its source point to its target. So that becomes the point of difference between the ballistic missile and cruise missile. Let's take look at a few more important points about the ballistic missile. The ballistic trajectory, as we just saw, is the path of an object that is launched but has no active propulsion during its actual flight, and these weapons are guided only during relatively brief periods of flight. So when it is being launched, then it does not have flight, but when it is going to descend onto the target, that is when it acquires the force. Consequently, the trajectory is fully determined by a given initial velocity, and effects of gravity, air resistance and motion of the earth, that is Coriolis force, gives it the required strength to hit the target. And shorter range ballistic missiles stay within the earth atmosphere. Those which are short range stay within the earth's atmosphere, and those which are long range travel out of the earth's atmosphere to return to hit to the target later on. Longer ranged intercontinental ballistic missiles. So there are different types of ballistic missiles as well, as we will see later on. So here we are looking at short range and long range. So long range will travel outside the earth's atmosphere, as I said, and will come back to hit the target. Let's look at these different types of ballistic missiles based on the range. Now the missiles will be distributed or classified on the basis of their weight, how much payload they can carry, how much distance they can travel. These would be the basis for their classification, right? So the distance that they can travel makes them divided into different types of ballistic missiles. So first is the short range or tactical ballistic missiles, which is shortly known as SRBM. Right? This was what we were seeing in the earlier slide, which do not travel outside the Earth's atmosphere. So the range is going to be short, between 300 km and 1000 km they can travel. The second type is the medium range or the theater ballistic missiles, which are shortly known as MRBM. Their range is going to be slightly larger than the short range ballistic missile. So from 1000 km to 3500 km. The third type is the intermediate range, or which also falls in the long range type of ballistic missiles, which are also shortly called as IRBM. So the Agni 4, which we are going to, which is the point of the article today, falls in this IRBM segment, where it is a intermediate range ballistic missile. The range for these kind of missiles is between 3500 km and 5500 km. And then the last type in this type of ballistic missile is the intercontinental ballistic missile. So this would have the highest range, and that is why also the name intercontinental, where it will be able to travel from one continent to another continent, and the range is upwards of 5500 km. So this is the classification done on the basis of their distance travelled by these missiles. Now, like I said, the Agni range, Agni 4 falls into the IRBM segment. Let's also study something about the Agni missiles in total, because as we saw, there is Agni 4, then there must also be Agni 1, 2, 3 and so on. So what are these different types of missiles? Let's take a look at them. These ballistic missiles or Agni missiles are actually ballistic missiles, like we saw, carrying nuclear warheads. So what would be the speciality for Agni missiles? That A, they are ballistic missiles that we just saw, and they would be carrying nuclear warheads. So they have the ability to carry nuclear warheads in them. That's what makes them the very strategic missile for Indian armory. And they are classified into 3 types. The types which we were seeing in the previous slide: medium range ballistic missiles, intermediate range ballistic missiles, and intercontinental ballistic missiles. So the Agni missiles are also divided into the basis of their distance traveled into these 3: the medium range, intermediate range, and intercontinental range. So Agni 1, 2 and Agni 3 are missiles which were developed under the Integrated Guided Missile Development Program, which was the premier program for development of missiles in India. So the Agni 1, 2 and 3 were developed under this program, and then when Agni missiles required much importance, they were given a strategic importance tag. And the Agni 4 and 5, which are high accuracy ring laser gyro based inertial navigation system, which means that they have navigation system attached to them, and the most modern and accurate micro navigation system. They possess that, and they are intermediate range as well as intercontinental ballistic missiles. Let's take a summary of their classification, where Agni 1, we have Agni 2, 3, 4 which was successfully tested. Then we also have Agni 5 and Agni 6. So Agni 1 is a medium range missile, Agni 2 becomes intermediate range, 3 also becomes intermediate range, and 4 also becomes intermediate range missiles, right? So the range for Agni 1, it is going on increasing, where Agni 1 has 700 to 1200 kilometer range, Agni 2 has 2000 to 2500 range, Agni 3 has 3000 to 5000 range, and 4 has 2500 to 3700 kilometers range, and Agni 5 will have 5000 to 8000 range. This will make Agni 5 an intercontinental ballistic missile, and Agni 6 will have a higher range which is still under development. And all of these missiles are what type? Surface to surface, which means that they would be launched from a surface and they would be attacking the target at, which is onto the surface as well, right? So this is the information about the Agni missiles. Using this, can we solve the previous year question now, which was asked in the prelims about Agni 4? Can we solve this? The first statement says that it is a surface to surface missile. We saw this, it's a correct statement. Then it is fueled by liquid propellant only. Okay, this is the statement in the form of a question which we do not know. Let's look at that. Then third statement is it can deliver 1 ton nuclear warheads about 7500 kilometers away. As we saw about Agni 4, the range was much less than 7500 kilometers away. So using this, where this figure was changed, if we eliminate this option, can we come to the right option, where A is which is the first statement only, is the right option. So it is not fueled by just liquid propellant, but other systems as well are used in the missile. So this was the previous year question which appeared in the prelims examination. Now we'll take up a practice question for the day, the answers of which you can attempt the question and type in the comment box. The solution we'll be discussing in the next class or tomorrow's session. This is the practice question for the day. Try to solve it and comment the answer in the comment box. We'll discuss the answer tomorrow. With this, we come to the end of today's session. We'll meet tomorrow with another set of articles from the newspaper and break them down from UPSC perspective. Thank you.